Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me get the Facebook Live going here. And Greg, do you just want to let's just go into lead gen this time, and then maybe we'll test out the Live Leap integration with your own stuff
Okay.
tomorrow or Wednesday.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
All right.
I'm cool with that, homeboy.
Okay. Come on. There we go.
I got a very funny photo I'm going to show you.
Oh, gee, I can't
Very
wait
funny.
to see
What?
it.
Photo. We had a picture of Betty Thomas, who's down at CAR. And the photographer came by and took a photo of our booth at the event. And they got my right shoulder and Matt almost looking like he's flipping somebody off with his eyes closed. It's like, she's like,
Awesome.
thanks for the great show, guys. And I'm like, could have given us a heads up that, we would have been, looking at the camera. Okay. But you're like agreeing with someone. It's pretty funny.
Hey, speaking of photos, should I do something other than a black turtleneck since it looks like my head's floating in this thing? You want me to throw a colored shirt on real quick?
You're fine. I mean, I don't see a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
No, you're all good.
Bless you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Give me about 30 seconds of silence so I can let this preview and all this stuff wind down, and then we'll go live. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. We've got an awesome guest with us today. We're talking about the truth of sales with Joe Rico, who is an introduction to me from one of our previous guests, Joni Wolek, which a lot of you remember. She was a great guest as well and had nothing but glowing things to say about Joel. And from my conversation with him when we set him up for the podcast, I completely agree, and it's going to be an awesome episode. We're talking about the truth about sales. We'll get into what that means. But first of all, just want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube, whatever the case is. But let's dispense with all that. We have Greg back from the land of the dead. He is back. He's out of his apartment. He's left his hobo encampment in his room. And the junior grandmaster himself is back in the official co-pilot seat in his office and is with us today. Greg, how are you?
First, hello, Matt. Joel is going to be an awesome guest for us today. He's using what they call the boom mic, guys. Guys, if you drive around a lot and you're tired of having those crappy conversations because no one can hear what you're saying because we like rolling down the window, take a look at the boom mic. It is epic quality. But myself, I am slowly, kind of, sort of, maybe not so sure if I'm going to make it out of this or not. But my entire team has decided that I'm going to get cancer, going to get scarlet, red scarlet. What are you going to call it? What was I going to get, Midori? Scarlet fever. And then I'm going to have to cut off my big toe if I do not go into the doctor and get medication, which I think they're full of shit, but it's enough to scare me enough to maybe go get some medication. So we'll see what happens. But I got to show this photo to everybody. This was done at CAR. CAR came by and they took a photo of us. And that not only did they just get my right shoulder, they got Matt eyes closed, trying to agreeing with people. So thank you, Betty, and everyone at CAR for sending us the photo.
That is some serious photo skill right there. That is, yeah,
mad photo skill. I was trying to photobomb our own booth, but I only got my right shoulder in.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Travesties.
So this is what happens when you leave the booth to talk to real people.
Tragedy strikes.
That's right. All right, let's bring in our special guest, Joe Rico. Joe, how's it going today?
It's going awesome, guys. Thanks for having me, Matt. Thanks for having me, Greg.
We're excited to have you. So give us, for everybody that doesn't know who you are, which in a lot of circles, you need no introduction. But for those that don't know you, give us kind of the 60-second bio on who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Joel Rico. I'm a real estate broker, real estate investor. I'm a design engineer by trade. I'm also a licensed hypnotist and an NLP master practitioner. So I transitioned from engineering, really. So, and I'm also an extreme sport, what they call it, an extreme sports polyathlete. So I translated.
What does that mean? Polyathlete, extreme sport. I want to hear this one.
So I like to do things that are out on the edge. So I do scuba diving and apnea diving. I'm a surfer, skydiver, base jumper, alpine snowboardist, race motorcycles, mountain bikes, rock climb, that sort of thing.
And Steve, everyone's grew up saying, don't do that, it's too dangerous for you. And you're like, screw you, world. I'm going to do whatever I want. And I'm with you. I'm a scuba diver. Skydiver.
Yeah, I think
Licensed to both those.
you know what they say is why would anybody go out on a limb? It's because that's where all the fruit grows.
And it's a hell of a lot more fun instead of being cardboard boring. That's awesome
Yeah.
stuff.
Nice.
So
Cool.
I went from engineer to real estate broker, and I went from real estate broker investor, and then I realized that wow, as a good engineer and as a real estate broker, I spent my engineering career in a cubicle. And so I had to learn how to talk to people and how to, the communication models. And so my study ever since getting into engineering was all about how to communicate, how to connect with people, how to get the contract signed. And so it's really been my field of study. And I got my real estate business blew up and I fell in love with teaching it. So I've been teaching this model for, I don't know, 12 or 13 years, really successfully in high volume. And I really love it.
And you know what? Our viewers are the ones that are most needing or most in need of what you have to offer. So this is going to be some really value add, guys. Please get your pencils out. Sharpen your pencil. Open up your pads of paper, guys. Prepare to take notes because Joel is going to make it rain up in here. So I'm glad that you're going to be here. Now that we know that you're crazy, in all the good ways. Now we're ready to have some fun. Now
That's
we're
right.
more about the NLP. By the way.
Well, let's jump in with a question here real quick because you can speak to it from both sides of this. So this is from the Lead Gen Scription Objections group. Teresa Hoyle Danos says, I would like to know others' experience with having a coach. Do you have one, and what's your experience with one? Do you actually see a difference in your business? So that's what I want to focus on. So Joel, you mentioned that your own business blew up. Was that partially did you have your own coach back then to help you blow up your business before you became one?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. So, certainly there are things that I've done that have broken some ground. But all of that has been standing on the shoulders of others. So, I didn't invent engineering. I didn't invent hypnosis. I didn't invent NLP. I had people help me along the way. Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan has a coach. I think if you want to get good in a hurry, then I'm convinced anybody can do anything they put their mind to. But I don't want it to take 25 years. So if you want to be a good rock climber, get a rock climbing coach. You want to learn how to base jump, get a base jumping coach. Right? That's not the kind of thing you want to cut your teeth on. I want the shortcut. I want to do it quick. I don't want to spend my life, figuring it out. I want to do it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's not the truly overly successful people in this world. They not only have like a coach and just one coach. A lot of them have multiple coaches, speech coaches, acting coaches, life coaches, whatever it is. So I mean, being coached is not a bad thing. It's very much a privilege to be coached by some of the best in the industry. I think
if you can afford it, why not have a whole bunch of coaches? I know real estate brokers that have a business coach, a sales coach, a finance coach, a fitness coach, a diet coach. I mean, why not?
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. A lot of people view it as a handicap or something to be looked down on, like, oh, I'm not a perfectionist at that, or I'm not the best at it yet because I have to be coached at it. Well, the best of the best of the best of the best get coached. Let's be honest. That's why they're the best of the best of the best of the best of the bests. And Joel, I'm glad you're agreeing on that with me. But also, do you also agree that at times that maybe the pupil will outgrow the coach, and it's time to put that person onto the next path? It's like riding an elevator up. Then they get off at a certain level, then they take the next level to go, to the next, go to higher levels.
I see both sides of that. I think there are times that I've outgrown coaches. I had a coach years and years ago that I mentored. He was my mentor. I idolized the guy. I thought he was brilliant. I learned a ton from him, and I got to a place where I felt like I had learned as much as I needed to learn from him, and there were other things about him that I didn't feel were fully in integrity, and I moved on to another coach. So I think that happens. And I also think that, Michael Jordan's coach can't beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one. So, I've coached real estate brokers that sell in higher volume than I sold. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your coach has to be better at you. It doesn't have to beat your business. They just have to be better at you in the area in which you need to grow.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, it's you think of Michael Jordan is a great analogy for that because his physical trainer Tim Grover played basketball at the low college levels. I mean, didn't even make it to the pros. Just a brilliant guy. And so it's one of those weird things where sometimes the best coach doesn't have to produce the volume that you do. They just have to be better at the aspects that you want to glean from them. There's also a great book called Mastery by Robert Greene, and he talks about how almost everybody comes to the point where they need to kill their master. You have to, you have that person that mentors you to a certain point, and then you end up going to a point where you have to almost rebel against them and get out from under them in order to really grow. And sometimes that means finding a new mentor, and sometimes that means just going off on your own for a while and finding your own path in order to really blossom into what you need to be. But a lot of times it takes that coach and that mentor to even get you it's almost like moving the base camp further up the mountain, right? So you can't assault the top of a mountain unless you've got your base camp at a certain point. And a lot of times the coach will help you get to that point, and then from there you go on by yourself. So yeah, I can see a lot of different.
A good coach should call that out too.
Yeah,
they should. A good coach at some point should say, you know what, I think you're ready for something different. And a good coach should graduate you at some point.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because it's not an ego thing for them either. They don't always have to be right. They have to have their student or their pupil at the top of their mind, not saying, oh well, I need to get another $600 a month of training fees for this, so I'm going to just hold them back, or I'm going to keep trying to I'm going to try to be better when they can actually pass it on to Matt Johnson, who might be better in X, Y, and Z field, or Greg McDaniel or Joel or whoever in that field, and let that person grow and climb, because then there will always be another pupil behind that person that can keep filling that slot, and it's always about the growth of the individual that they're coaching.
Ideally, that's how it should be. And not all coaches feel that way, but that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yep. Oh yeah, I think the average length of time a person spends with a coach is something like 8 months. Does that bear out, Joel?
That just depends. I spent the last 9 years connected with a coaching company, and their average time was about 7 or 8 months. I think in the industry, I think that's short. So, I know other coaching companies that have, 2-year tenure. So it depends. It depends on what you're coaching and what you're up to and the quality of your coach, and,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it depends on what you're offering and what the people need.
Yeah, I was with a coaching, a large, well-known coaching organization for a while, and I was being coached by their head coach. I soon was coaching her on tech and a lot of other things, and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta go. I'm like, I can't pay you this amount of money for me to be teaching you how to do everything. I mean, it's supposed to be reversed.
Exactly.
And be willing to pull the plug and move on, and be curious to go out there. You need to find a coach that actually matches your style, not just the biggest organization or something like that.
Well, I think too, there's I think a great coach, one of the jobs of a great coach is to empower the student such that the student no longer needs the coach, right? So what do they say? The first job of the guru is to let you know that you no longer have a need for a guru. So there's a lot of coaches that don't feel that way, right? There's a lot of coaches that say, hey, if they pay, they stay. As long as they're paying the bill, I'll keep them forever. I don't, that is completely counter to everything that I teach, right? I teach do what's best for the customer and customer first, and that's not in alignment with being in integrity with your client. So
yeah, I mean, Tony Robbins has his brand new documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, which, by the way, is an absolute, complete, and total tearjerker. I watched it back to back one night, and I literally had tears just pouring down my face. You guys think you guys think your life is screwed up? Go watch that show. You'll see some people who got some serious problems. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's great. Yeah, great.
What was the question again?
It was whether someone should hire a coach and what their experience was with it. So, yeah,
well,
I think we covered that, but I think we did. But Joel, give us an idea, like when you were in real estate and things were really starting to take off for you, what were your main lead generation levers?
So when I first started, my main levers was I just called everybody I knew. Like when the day after I got my license. Well, I was actually flipping homes at the time and was really frustrated because it seemed like every time I needed to do something, I had to deal with a realtor, and they were not calling me back, and they were out of integrity, and they were just sloppy. And coming from a background of engineering, that sloppy's not my strong suit, right? I'm all about blueprints, clarity, do it now, do what you say you're going to do, be in integrity. And so I met so many realtors, which I could tell you 100 stories. I just got really frustrated, and so I got licensed just for my own flips. And then people around me were saying, hey, would you help me do that? Hey, would you sell my house? So I just as a hobby, I bought and sold houses for the people that I knew. And then it turned out that I really liked the industry more than what I was doing. So when I decided to take on being a real estate broker full time, I realized that I had to do some lead gen. So I started by doing the first step. Obviously, was expireds and for sale by owners. They're, in my opinion, are the lowest hanging fruit. They're the easiest to get. So expireds and FSBOs would get my foot in the door. And then once I started having a little traction, take a listing here, sell a house there, now I have, a sign in the yard, and now I can call around that sign. I could do just listed, I could do just sold, and it sort of grew organically like that. And I think those are some of the hardest. While I think they're the lowest hanging fruit for sale by owner and expired, they're also present a unique set of challenges. Expireds can be really ticked off. For sale by owners can be really protective, and they don't like realtors. And there's some big hills to climb. So yeah, that was the beginning for me.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch that progression. A lot of people go into it completely on the other side of the coin, and what they try to do is, like, well, I got to do all the calls and doors and everything else. But you went into it, and it naturally, morphed into what it ultimately became for you because you followed the easiest route. I mean, you're like, oh, well, this works. Oh, well, that works. And is it interesting to take a look at that? You didn't end up in the real estate side of business the way where you thought you were going to be. You thought you were going to be doing flips, right? But you're like, oh, well, I could be doing this other stuff a lot better. I mean, how long was that transformation? How long did that take to transform from investor to full-time agent?
Just a couple of years, and I was still doing flips, but it only made sense. I was only finding 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 flips a year that really turned me on, so that wasn't enough to keep me busy full time. So I started prospecting for business and lead generating for listings, and some of those turned into flips. Great, that was my favorite one. If I was a listing agent, and if I found it first, there's no listing agent on the deal, I could just take the deal. That would be awesome. And if not, then maybe I could list the house. And if not, maybe I could refer them to somebody. If whatever. So it just kind of grew, like that. And you said something really interesting too about do what works and don't do what doesn't work. I think that's really like marketing 101, right? Do something, and if it works, do more. If you do something and it doesn't work, do less. And so the same thing with postcards and whatever you're saying to people when you call them. If you're calling for sale by owners and you're having unbelievable success, whatever you're doing is great. Keep doing that. If you're calling for sale by owners and you're having horrible results, guess what? You should maybe be saying something different because that's not working.
Or maybe just don't do it because you suck at it and everyone knows that you suck at it. Go do something that you like. I call it your superpower. I talked to a lot of people. I had this one young guy last week when I was laying in bed dying. I did a call with him, and he's like, I need help with my calls. I'm like, do you like doing calls? I hate doing calls. I'm like, stop doing the calls. He's like, I can? I'm like, yes, you can. He's like, really? I'm like, yes. What do you like to do? He's like, I like to be around people. I'm like, go be around people. He's like, I can? I'm like, oh, God. Sometimes people just get sucked into the mindset of like, well, this is tradition. This is why you get business. This is what my mentor tells me. This is what worked for him or her. And then they're like, but this sucks for me. Well, I literally go in and I loathe my existence when I have to do cold calls. And I'm like, well, don't do it. It's not meant to beat you up and kill you. It's meant to bring money to you and maybe even bring a little joy into your life. Shocker.
Well, that's probably true most of the time. And I would maybe dig into that a little bit too and say, well, what is it that you don't like? What isn't working? And maybe they were given a horrible script, and that script just doesn't sound like me, and I don't feel good saying, right? Maybe they're not being authentic. So I like to say that I rescue people. So I have people all the time that say, so for example, I was coaching for this big coaching company a few years ago, and they said, hey, we have this guy we want to give to you as a one-on-one client. And I said, okay, well, tell me about this guy. And they said, well, he's this heavy-duty expireds guy, and we know you're an expireds expert, so we thought it'd be a good match to give him to you. Great. So on my first call, I go, hey, I hear that you're pretty committed to expireds, so tell me about that. And he says, yeah, I forgot what the number was now. I made 2,300 expired calls in the last 6 months. And I was like, God. Holy God, are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. Wow. Where do you live? And he told me we're a giant metropolitan area. And I said, 2,300, that's impressive. How many listings did you take out of those 2,300? And he said, 0.
Well,
0.
What?
How is that possible?
How many listing appointments did you go on? And he said, 0. My last coach told me that it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and
what the hell are you telling these people? So, naturally I had him record this and I listened to what he was saying to people. And the quote unquote script that he was using was ring, ring, hello. And he'd say, hi, I'm calling about your house on 1234 Main Street. What are you going to do with that thing?
Well, I found the problem.
That was the script. Hang on, 2,300 times in 6 months.
And you never thought to try to change it up a little bit
admire
just
that guy's
to get an
persistence.
appointment? Wow.
Yeah, tenacious like crazy.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when,
Keep going, guys.
I just got a
Keep going.
Facebook message saying the program stopped. Do you guys get that, or is that just me?
Yeah, but we're still recording, so the podcast will be fine. But yeah, the broadcast for some reason just started.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna see if I can restart it here, but we can just keep going. Hang on a second.
So I think that's the sign. That's the hint for not having some oversight, not having somebody you trust, not having a coach that taking somebody else's script and trying to force a square peg into a round hole. That's what happens.
Yeah, I usually say, and Joel, I'm sure that you'll second on this one, is that I say that a script is the backbone of a conversation. When I use Ford or Frog, family, occupation, recreation, either dreams or goals, you can take that and you can have a conversation with anybody and just walk them down those different segments of life and be consistently curious about them and what's going on in their lives. Therefore,
Sure.
The conversation can flow fluidly without ever having to be like, well, shit, they didn't say this word or that phrase, and crap, now what do I say next? Shit, I'm screwed. And it can be very much like just, oh, okay, so you did NLP. That's awesome. Tell me more. Then our conversation is continuous fluid. You're a skydiver. I'm a skydiver. You build the relationship, and then once the trust is built, then they're going to start wanting to do business with you, because the old saying is nobody's going to want to do business with you until they know that they know that you like and trust or are interested in them. I can't think right now. But you basically have to gain their confidence.
There's a lot of different ways that I've heard that said. Yeah. I think you're dancing around something really. I think you're dancing around something really important too, and that is, your Ford. I'm not a big fan of that one, but whatever. You're following the Ford model is making the conversation about them.
Right.
And
yeah.
What most salespeople do is they only talk about themselves. That's a problem.
Yes.
And the number one complaint against salespeople across all industries is the salesperson didn't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most salespeople are so busy talking, they miss the whole thing. And so it's my belief that the client will always give you the solution if you ask and if you listen and if you get connected with them. Another thing you said I think was really important is the technical difficulties with quote unquote script. So I don't like the word script, and I don't like the concept of script. And I don't like it because the seller doesn't get a copy, which means they don't, like the seller doesn't follow along.
That's a great line. Which is true. It's funny, like when we give away scripts and obviously things like that, but you always want to. It's one of those things where you sell people on what they want and you give them what they need, right? So yes, you give them words to say, but the words are a crutch until you get the confidence and you internalize it, and then you don't need the script anymore, right? So what's kind of the framework? Like, what do you like to call it? Is there a different terminology that maybe helps people understand that concept rather than the word script?
Yeah. So I think Greg's really said it right, that a script is just really a framework. So for me, I don't like the concept of script. I like the concept of, I have a vague idea of what I want to talk about. And for me, I don't want really anything scripted because I have no idea. If I have a script and the seller makes a left turn, then now instead of talking to the seller, now I'm trying to figure out how to get them back on script. And so the term that I like to use is, I like to facilitate a conversation. So I just like to have a real conversation. And in the in the training that I teach, it's called The Truth About Sales. I have a couple of methodologies, and I have a couple of intentions. One of them is that all opportunities are contained inside other people.
I
And
like that
all
one.
those opportunities that are contained inside other people are all hidden inside a conversation.
Very simple, but it
Great
makes
perspective.
so much sense.
Yeah, so you're setting your intention when you're having that conversation. The intention is to uncover the opportunity, not to
That's
follow
right.
a script to a specific end goal. And then if it doesn't hit that end goal, then you failed, or you get off the script and you get flustered and confused. So it's to uncover the
So
opportunity.
what normally happens to it's really all salespeople, but since I think our big following here, mine as well as yours, are real estate people, let's keep it with real estate for now. I think what happens is if the realtor calls and they're trying to find out if there's an opportunity for a listing here, and they have a set the appointment, take the listing script, and the seller doesn't fit through the pieces of the funnel and doesn't come out as a listing appointment, then it's a no-go. Well, maybe that wasn't a listing appointment. Maybe that was, he's going to turn that house into a rental because he's got 50 acres that he's going to do a subdivision and do some other project, but it didn't fit into your script, and so you missed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to explore. I want to facilitate. And so in the Truth About Sales, I really view this as hosting a conversation to see what's in there. And there's a very specific, I like to call it the ROI of a conversation. So the R is rapport. So step one is always get in rapport with my client, my listener, the prospect. Get in rapport. So in the class, we talk a whole bunch about that. And then the O of ROI is, this is the hard one. The O is open-hearted listening. Listen like this is your best friend. Listen like it's your own mother. Like really pay attention and see what's there. Find out what's going on for them. Find out what they need. And until I find out what they need, I have no idea what to talk about. And then the I in ROI is, and they're in this order for a reason, the I is influence, steering them towards what they want. So steering them anywhere until I know what they want is technically manipulation, and I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
That's very true. A lot of the times, the people don't really they don't do the rapport. They don't, like you're saying, they don't listen to what the other person has to say because they have commission breath, as I call it. They need to get a deal or they have an objection or something like that, and they're just like they're just laser sighted on got to get this deal done, got to get blah 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 accomplished because they're going to run over their own mom with a Mack truck if they have to get that job done. And the rapport, as soon as you understand and you understand where that client is truly coming from or trying to get to, then you can really get on board and be a team member, and they're going to feel that camaraderie a lot more than being classified as the real estate agent, the dipshit in the group, just trying to get the fast sale. So the rapport and open-hearted listening and then being able to influence them, I'd love that. And I did, by the way, write it down. It's probably
Awesome.
misspelled, but I don't care.
That's all right.
Well, speaking of that, I wanted to mention this real quick because there's a good comment here from the group. So I believe it's Jesse Baca says they're currently in your training, Joel, and 2 weeks in, It's outstanding so far. So I wanted to mention that, shout out to everyone. But so for those that are watching right now, Joel, can you let them know just real quick how they can connect with you and get more information about that?
Sure. All the details for the training thing are just under my name. You can just go to joelrico.com. It's JOELRICO.com. And there's some details on the class and a sign-up link. The next one launches the second week of January.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's dive in. Where would you like to go, Joel? Because we can dive into either quick ways to develop rapport, but I feel like a lot of agents, if they're released from the intention of moving towards a script, I feel like a lot of us, most of us are high I's. We don't necessarily have an issue generating rapport as long as we're not so focused on the outcome that we forget to build it. So let's base it on the assumption that we have some rapport with that person because we're just going in looking for the opportunity. What does it mean to really have that open-hearted listening? How does that manifest itself practically, and how do you get yourself in that mindset?
Sure. So can I have a slight detour? I want to make a quick comment on rapport. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
So especially, I'm not picking on you, but especially high I, I think high I's, which are probably 50% or more of real estate agents, I have the gift of gab and everybody likes me and I like to talk, and that's not necessarily rapport,
Interesting. Okay.
right? So just because you're comfortable talking doesn't mean that that's rapport. In fact, if your client is the town librarian who's very soft-spoken and very quiet, then, maybe just sitting next to her is gonna have her feel good.
Sounds like
So
relationship advice.
it really is. I mean, isn't that what every listing appointment is? Isn't that building a new relationship?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's no different.
Yeah. It's
So
all
the question is, yeah. So the question is, what is it that has both of you feel good about being in the same conversation? So rapport, by definition, is a state of being that's characterized by trust and responsiveness. This is what you guys have. This is what Greg and Matt have. You guys trust each other. When Greg calls, Matt goes, "Hey, Greg, what's going on?" I mean, you guys have this thing. I mean, look at the way you work together now, right? And even the fact that you can joke about that is a sign of rapport.
Yes. Yeah, it is. That's a good point.
Right? So rapport, I think, is not what everybody thinks it is. So remember, rapport is making the client feel good so they want to talk to you. Rapport is the state of being that we have with our friends that, you can joke with each other and they can walk in your house without ringing the doorbell. And that's built over years and years and years and years. In sales, the question is, how do you do it in 2 minutes? How do you do it in 30 seconds? Right? So that's a whole study in and of itself.
I was like, all right, so break it down. That's the easy button in real estate. How do you do that? How do you make Matt like me in 3 seconds or 30 seconds? Because this is an uphill battle.
It is an uphill battle. You may need the full 2 minutes for this one.
Well, so let me walk you through a little demo. At some point in your life, have you met somebody and just immediately you like them? I don't know why. Wow, what an interesting person. Wow, I like him. What a great guy. I want to learn more. I want to know more. Have you met somebody like that at some point?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you're both nodding your head. Yes.
I met Matt and I felt that way. I'm like, dude, I just kind of like this dude. We have a good time together. We're just like brothers from another mother. So yeah.
Exactly. That's the perfect definition, actually. I feel like a brother from another mother, right? I just know the guy. We're famous together, right? So, and then think about that, the opposite of that example. At some point, you've met somebody and immediately, oh my God, I don't want to be around this person. Right? I don't know their political views. I don't know their religious beliefs. I don't know if they beat their children or give money to charity. I have no idea. But I've been around them for 30 seconds and I can't get away fast enough.
Yeah. There's actually a woman that I know that is exactly like that. I literally see her and I change directions to get around this individual.
So what is it about that person? I mean, this is in the first 20 or 30 seconds of meeting somebody. What is that person doing that you want to get the heck away?
That's a great question.
Yeah. How do we answer this?
So it's before we really get to their beliefs. It's before we get to their values. I believe, it's literally their communication model, right? So if you're the town librarian and the real estate agent is a longshoreman on leave that drops the F-bomb every 30 seconds, they're out of rapport. And it's not going to work. And so even before you know this person's MO, what they're all about, how they operate, if they're telling the truth, if they're full of BS, it's when their communication model lines up with mine. They look like me, they move like me, they talk like me, they sound like me. Wow, this person feels like my family. They feel very familiar, la familia, like my family, right? So it's the way in which we communicate with each other that this is hardwired deep into our DNA. This is the thing that has us feel like, oh, my brother from another mother, my tribe, my friend, my family, you're in my tribe. I can trust you because you sound like my tribe. Now, if you show up really different from my tribe, right? You show up with a green mohawk and a safety pin through your nose, dropping F-bombs. I'm going to go, who is this character? Right? I'm going to start to protect myself because you're very clearly not from my tribe. Right?
So let me ask you this, Joel, because I've heard Bill Crespo has some great stuff on this, and he talks about keeping yourself neutral until you uncover or have a pretty good idea of what that person's like he talks a lot about disc profile, but you could also put that in communication model terms. But if you're a high D, you don't start off your expired call in full on high D mode because you don't know, you might be dealing with a high C on the other end of the phone call. So
That's right.
So do you take that kind of same perspective of trying to keep it just neutral until you figure out what they are and then adjust? Is it a feeling thing? Is it a fingertip feel thing?
Yeah, it's I want the client to be able to lead the way in which we talk. So for example, if I call, now think about how much feedback you get, right? So that you let's say you're calling an expired and the seller, the owner answers the phone and they say, yes, hello. That's a very different than, yeah, who's this? That's a very different client. And so I want the client. So one thing that we know for sure is that when we let the client be in charge of the style in which we communicate, then the client will typically let us be in charge of the content, what we talk about.
Wow.
So I want the client to be in charge of the context. If we're going to yell and scream, good. We'll yell and scream and I'll drop F-bombs all day if that's what they want to do. I don't care. If they want to whisper and talk really, okay, great, we'll talk about the house. It doesn't matter to me which model we use. I want to use the model that makes the client feel at home.
So you're mirroring and matching, right?
That's right. On as many levels as I can.
Yeah, tonality, rate of speech, everything.
Volume.
Volume, match them, and then they'll see you as an equal. Like I had a guy pick up the phone the other day when I was doing some cold calls, and he was just a dickhead. And so I was a dickhead right back. And at
he
the end
probably
of the call,
thought you were great.
Oh, he loved me. At the end of the call, he gave me his phone number, told me to follow back up with him. Like, all right, from one dick to another. Good talking. All right, bye-bye. But
exactly. So herein really lies the strength of a great salesperson, is the ability to be flexible just like that. Because many agents would have got that and would have hung up and said, that guy's a jerk, bang. So one of the models. Go ahead.
They're sensing that they're not from the tribe. Therefore, when they get the rejection from what they're viewing as rejection is just his model of communication. You have to take yourself out of this whole scenario and say, look, they're not yelling at me. They're yelling. This is how they talk. This is how they interact. This is how they're comfortable. So either I can get comfortable with that, or I can move on to someone else who I'm comfortable with. And in sales, look, it's not about you. It's about your product and about what you're trying to accomplish. And your clients' wants or needs. So if you got to put up with, with senior, douchebag, then that's what you get to deal with.
Well, and it goes back to Joel. You made the comment about that guy who made 2,300 expired calls in 6 months.
Yeah.
On the advice of it's a numbers game. It is. I mean, there's plenty of truth to that in other cases. And one of the things that you can use that as an encouragement in is if you are not yet a master salesperson where you have the ability to adjust to a multitude of different communication styles and models and circumstances, you can still take pride in the fact that, look, I'm looking for the people that I do connect with. And I might have to make a few more calls because I can't connect with senior douchebag or Miss Librarian down the street because I'm not a high C or whatever the case is.
Sure.
You can still take pride in that and say, look, it's a numbers game. Let them go. We're going to throw them right back in the water and we'll cast my line out again and look for the people that are in my tribe, right?
Yeah,
so there's
a
couple
that's
of
the place to start.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
that's the place to start. Yeah, and then that's, I think, all new salespeople. I think you'll never grow unless you measure, and you're only going to grow what you do measure. So when I have a salesperson that's brand new, I usually hold them accountable to, lead generate for a certain amount of hours. And then once they're consistent with a certain amount of hours, like let's say it's 3 hours, once they become mostly dependable at 3 hours, then maybe it's going to be 20 contacts. And I don't care about the 3 hours, I want the 20 contacts. And then once they get dependable 20 contacts, now I want to hold them dependable to set 2 appointments. And then I don't care about the appointments, I want them to take 1 listing. And then and I just keep elevating higher and higher and higher the thing in which we're measuring. So you got to start somewhere, yes.
Yeah, that is a great key. And there's what was it? It was actually, Greg, it might have been the guy that you and I were talking about before we hopped on, the guy that created the lock-on report. Anyway, he created something else called I think it was buried within the materials for that. But he talks about when you first start setting goals, you set goals just based on the things you can control. But as the sphere
right.
of things that you can control get bigger, then you can set much different goals based on the things that you used to not be able to control, but now you have more control over. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Love that.
Well said. I really like the way you
I
said
think
that.
agents start with, yeah, because everybody has a different philosophy of goal setting. So if you run into somebody that has that philosophy of, well, it was one appointment a day, well, that's great if you have a couple years under your belt and you can reasonably, predictably, figure out if I make 30 calls or 30 contacts, I'm going to get one appointment set up. If you're brand
Exactly.
new, you have no idea what that contact to appointment ratio is. It's a little hard to set that goal. It's much better to start out with, I'm going to spend 3 hours on the phone today. Whatever the result is,
Agreed.
I'm just going to put in those hours. So I love that approach. But
I think
there was
it's a
one thing
confidence builder too.
It is. It 100% is. Absolutely. You start with the things you can control, and then as that grows, then you change the goals. But there was something that I wanted to, if you don't mind addressing here real quick, I wanted to just take me through, if somebody gives you this, not objection, but just this line of reasoning in a coaching situation, give me some of the questions that person can ask themselves and maybe that you would ask them to examine this. So one of the guys that's watching us right now says, his brokerage has a big focus on COI, but he doesn't really agree. He would rather talk to strangers on the phone all day, every day. Strangers tend to have more respect for your knowledge, whereas friends and family always think they know more, and you're putting your relationships at risk by working with close relationships. So obviously you did that exact thing. You went out and worked with your database, and I know a lot of very successful people that start from their database and work out from there. What would you ask that person? What's the line of kind of question you would take them down?
What would I ask the real estate agent who asked this question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would ask a little bit on how long they've been in the business, because this sounds a little bit like a newer agent can easily call a stranger, and the stranger doesn't know if you're brand new or if you're a seasoned veteran. And if you're confident, you can sound like you can sound like a seasoned veteran on the phone. Sadly, the people that know you, they might be relating to this agent like the kid that they knew back in high school. And they don't know what he's up to now. They don't know, how much he's learned and grown and evolved. And if they've known you your whole life, they're probably still relating to you like, Christmas 1974. So I think the smart move for this particular person is for him to keep doing what he's comfortable at, which is, going out and getting new business, and then folding those new people, folding them into a database and growing a sphere that is past clients' database. And then if I were him, I would take all the successes from that past client database. I sold this home for 5,000 over market. This home was expired and I sold it in 3 weeks. Like, take all the successes from that group and start sharing his wins with his COI. Right?
Yeah.
And so over the short period of time, his COI will start to see him as, wow, that guy's killing it. Wow, he did this, he did that, he did 3 more this month, he sold this one 5,000 over, and eventually they'll start to relate to him like the new version of him instead of who they thought he was 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, you have a very, very strong point on that, and I like it. I like what you're talking about there, Joel, is the fact that not only are you doing what you're comfortable with as a new agent or whatever the scenario is, but you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because you're still doing outbound, cold prospecting for future or now business, but you're also showing successes through multiple different mediums. It could be through a newsletter, it could be through live Facebook posts, it could be through Facebook messengers, it could be over coffees, but whatever it is. But if you and I are friends, and you keep telling me all these amazing stories without bragging, but just relaying facts on how you've changed lives, well, very quickly you're right on that. You will now become an authority figure in my mind. I had a group of guys here in my office. They all used to kind of pick on me when I was back years and years ago, when I was just kind of bumblefucking my way through life and business. And they would just kind of refer to me as like, hey, Stretch, come on, Stretch. Like, fuck you, first off. You know what? Just because I'm taller than you doesn't mean you can pick on me. But now that I put all my work in, now they don't say Stretch. Now they say, hey, Greg, can I get a second one for you? Can you please teach me?
Well, that was a level of respect that you earned.
Yes. It was not given. It was earned. And that's the lot of thing. I think that might go back to what people why they don't have a coach, is because they just expect to be good at this because their mommy said that they're really good at being with people, but they didn't earn the right to be respected. You didn't earn the right.
Well, I think
Why did my best friend list with this other guy? Because you don't have the right and the respect in that portion of your life to represent someone. And having a coach will close that gap very quickly, I think.
that's the plan. That's the plan.
All right, so a few people. So Clinton, Tom, Kenny, and Michelle all said variations of this is great info and great nuggets and stuff like that. So in the minutes that we have left, Joe, I wanted you to kind of take it anywhere that you'd like to go. We can finish up with open-hearted listening, or we can finish out
Sure.
the rest of the ROI model. So where would you like to go?
Sure. So sure, let me say a little something about open-hearted listening. I love to pose this question to real estate agents, and the question is, think of the person that somebody in your life that you love, and think of a person right now in which you would happily list and sell their home for no charge.
Nobody.
Right. So think of who that is. I mean, it might be your mother, your little sister, I don't know, somebody, right? I mean, like my parents, I would, they're not moving, but if they were going to sell their house, I would not charge them a commission. Of course I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And when they die, they're going to leave me all their money anyways. So why would I charge them a commission? It doesn't make any sense. So think of
Got to
somebody.
get some of that sweet inheritance a few years early. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they would insist I take it, but I wouldn't want to. So
Right.
think of somebody that you would list and sell their home for free.
Okay, my brother-in-law and my sister.
Okay.
Perfect. And then think of whatever conversation that you would have with them that normally would be your listing appointment, and then think of what the listing appointment would be like for this person. And then my question to you two guys, because you're the only ones that are live with me right now, would that appointment be any different than your regular appointment? Matt's nodding his head yes. Yeah, so both of you are saying yes.
I right off the bat, I can see it stretching out. I can see you definitely giving them time to think about it, whereas most agents want to go in for the kill on that appointment. If they don't walk out with the paperwork, they assume they're not going to get the listing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the entire tone of the listing appointment, if it was actually someone you genuinely cared about, would be a lot different.
So my take on open-hearted listening is, what if we went into every listing appointment and took the money off the table? And was that a little seizure you had right there, Greg? When I said take the money off the table, you had a little seizure?
No.
Okay.
This is getting too real.
Checking.
This is getting too real.
So, like if that appointment is really different, then why? I mean, why wouldn't we want to treat everybody like our friends and our family? Why wouldn't we want to listen to them? Like if my mom and dad wanted to move, I would be less inspired to pull comps and prove the value of the house. I'd be more curious about, well, where are you going? And what's that going to do? And how are you going to manage the relationship with, all your family that lives right here? And what's inspiring you to do that? I mean, I would be much more connected in what's going on with them personally, and then selling the house is just a sideline.
I think one of the real things that comes down to it, and as you know, as being a master of NLP, there's 4 different responses that people have when they come in contact with you. It's, are you a danger? Are you a friend? Are you a potential sexual partner? And the most common and default is that you're irrelevant. So I think potentially at some level, they are irrelevant to you unless they get the business. So they just want to get the business, and now that they become relevant, now you can move forward in the relationship building. But I mean, you help me with. I'm just spitballing here, but I mean, at some core level, do you think that there is an irrelevance factor in there? That the agent
between who and who?
The agent and the homeowner. That they're sitting down to do a listing appointment with, because they're there literally just for it is a job for them. They're not there because they love them. I mean, they could look like Matt and Julie and his 3 obese babies. I mean, just little thunder denters.
I think what you're saying is a very elaborate version of commission breath, and I totally agree.
Yes.
I totally agree that most agents go into the appointment with a dichotomy. Either I'm going to get this listing or I'm not. It's a yes or a no. And I'm going to do my dog and pony show and hope I get a yes. And if not a yes, then it's a no. And we most of us walk in with either I'm going to get it or I'm not going to get it. And there's nothing open-hearted about that. That's totally salesperson centric at the expense of the client.
You just clarified for something for me. No joke, has been baffling the shit out of me for 17 years. When I first got
Awesome.
into the business, I would watch my father go into listing appointments. Okay, and I would work so hard. I'd go and I'd just be a fly on the wall, just sit there and shut up and just
Yep.
listen. Right. The unique difference, and this totally just dawned on me. The reason why he would get these listings, back to back to back to back, was he sat down. He wasn't doing a presentation. Dude, he
That's
could
right.
spout numbers off, but he got down in got in the nitty gritty with them, and he built rapport, and he figured out where they were really coming from, what their ultimate goals were. He would advise people not to sell. That's, by the way, guys, that's almost a surefire way to get the listing. Just throw it out there, but you have to mean it. Don't be a dick and be like, I don't think you should sell. Come on. Yes, okay, you still want to sell. No, don't be that guy. But I mean, I would watch him literally take back a sheet of paper like this. He would draw an L and then do like a little line like this going up, and then he would literally doodle for another 20 minutes talking to these people. But they built the rapport, and they could feel that there was no commission breath, and he understood them and what they were truly trying to do, and then he advised them like a true advisor. That was the open-hearted listening. He really heard what they weren't saying.
And
he
it's
was okay
much
to walk
easier
away.
to do that when you're a veteran and you're making enough money and you're not worried about making your car payment. It's easy to do
Yeah.
that. It's tough to do that when you're thinking, holy crap, I need to make my car payment this month. Then it's really hard to do that. So,
it is, but it's also not, because if you're true and authentic to you and to the client's wants or needs, like I've told people, I will not represent them if they are going to buy this home, because it is a dog poo house. It'll be ultimately the worst decision you've made in a while. These are the reasons why. And I said I'll walk away from the commission. I don't want to be any part of it. They saw the authenticity of me, and therefore they listened to me, and I was elevated in their mind to a true professional, because I was saying, look, I'm not going to represent you. And they're like, what? So that's what you
and there
mean.
it goes again. Right there it goes again. When you take the money out of the equation, all of a sudden we get to see people's true intentions.
Yeah, and sadly, a lot of real estate agents, don't have the best intentions sometimes. And I've been guilty of that in my early parts of my years, because I didn't know any difference. So those of you who are watching this podcast or listening to us or whatnot, please listen to what Joel is saying. I mean, this will change your business like that, because people will start relating.
I think all of this is perspective. So everything that we've talked about today is perspective. So you go into a listing appointment, is it right, wrong, I'm going to get it, I'm not going to get it, or am I going to help them? That's just a perspective that we take on coming in. So can I do a really quick 30-second plug? Is that okay?
Sure. No, of course. I was going to prompt you to do one anyway.
So in the course that I teach, the Truth About Sales, obviously it's all based on the ROI, rapport, open-hearted listening, and then ultimately influence. We start with perspective. So we dissect, we know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Good according to who, bad according to who. We start by doing values elicitations, find out what are the client's values that are helping determine their decisions. We do some self-evaluation exercises to find out what blind spots that we each have as salespeople. Right? Is there something I'm doing that's causing people to not list with me? Do I have some blind spots I haven't identified? We do a bunch of exercises.
Flawed? No, I'm not flawed, Joel. There's no way that could be.
Boy, lots of us think that way.
Yeah, we really do.
We do a bunch of listening exercises, and then we get into the constructs of communication, which are the structure of agreement, the tools of assumption, the tools of suggestion, the process of alignment, the process of pacing people and then influencing people. We talk about relationship and choice, helping people guide their decisions. We have a chapter on mediation and negotiating. We have a couple of weeks that we spend solely about objection handling. Right? Objection handling, again, is more perspective. Right? For example, if the seller says, well, I'm just going to sell it myself and save the money. Well, that's a perspective. Can they sell it themselves? Sure. Are they going to save the money? Well, they'll save some commission, but statistics say that they save the commission, but they lose more in capital value than they recover in commission. So all of these are just perspectives. So, I think as we as we master these tools and really break down and understand the mechanisms of how we as human beings communicate with each other, it gets much easier to learn how to connect with people, how to hear what's going on behind the words, how to really get a feel for what they're up to, in spite of what they're saying sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really up to.
I'm no joke, man. I want to take your course, and I've been really interested in NLP for a long period of time. I think I will. But I think
this is
just a change of mindset. Just the way that you say it's a perspective. Everything out there is a perspective coming from that other human being. As soon as you understand that, now you can start really changing the way you view them and what they're saying or doing to you. So if a client's yelling at you, their perspective is that you have not done something or improperly did something that was a negative effect into their life. And if you can root out what that problem is and then change yourself, then maybe that we won't get yelled at again. They won't have that perspective again. I love that.
Sure.
That's really good stuff, man.
Perspective too, like a really nice example for perspective is, let's say you have an agent who's doing 10 homes a year, and they're going on a listing appointment and they're competing against, an agent who's doing 300 homes a year.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the seller going to choose? Well, I don't know. It could be either. So when the seller says, "Why should I choose you?" the guy who sells 300 a year is going to say, because I've proven myself 300 times already this year that I get houses sold. That guy's only done 10. I've done it 300 times. You have a much better odds with me. So what can the guy who sells 10 homes a year, what can that guy say? Well, I'm up against the guy who sells 300. The guy who sells only 10 a year has a completely different perspective. He's going to say, well, you can hire me and you can have like the Nordstrom's white glove concierge service, or you can be one of 300 for that guy. You can be like a number. You're not going to get that guy. You're going to get lost. You're going to be one of 300. If your house doesn't sell, he won't care.
Yeah.
Neither one of those is right or wrong. They're just some different perspectives to look at it. So when we do an awesome job of getting in rapport with the client, and when we do an awesome job of demonstrating open-hearted listening, like I'm really looking out, the client gets that I'm looking out for their best interest, then sharing these kind of perspectives land. That's the way to influence. Get in rapport, listen to what they need, help move them towards what they want. And then, if you're in conflict somewhere, then, that's just a perspective that is something we can work with.
Well, you've definitely changed my perspective on a lot of perspectives. So here's an objection that I was actually asked the other day, and I'm been baffled by coming up with a really good response. So the gentleman asked us, said, "Hey, what's the objection handler for when you go up to a listing appointment and the sellers say, well, what are you going to do differently from the agents that are only charging 4% and you're charging 5 or 6%? What are you going to do differently?" So, I mean, what's the perspective is saving capital, but they're trying to compare apples and oranges. So what would be a good perspective shifter for that potential person?
Well, would you be the seller and role play that with me?
Sure. Yeah. So, Joel, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to do differently and better for me and my family? Because I have a lot of really qualified agents. Matt Johnson, who's only going to charge me 4%. So why am I paying you more?
Well, so first of all, I have no idea what Matt is going to do, and I have no idea what Matt's list to sales price ratio is. We can look it up if you'd like. Question though, did Matt say, "Hey, Greg, I'll do it for 4%," or did he start higher and you got him down to 4%?
Oh, I got him down to 4%. I'm a master negotiator.
Awesome. Where did he start?
5%.
He started at 5, and you got him down to 4.
Yeah.
Was that
only 3 hours?
Say again?
Only took me 3 hours.
Only took you 3 hours. Awesome. So, Greg, roughly, what do you think your house is worth right now? Roughly.
Between $1 million and $1.05 million.
Okay, around $1 million-ish, million plus. So that when we sell a house, a big piece of the process is negotiating back and forth between the buyer and the seller. And in that process of offer back and forth buyer and seller, 2, 3, 4, 5% of that price. I mean, in your case, that might be $50, $60, $80,000 might get negotiated back and forth. Are you aware that that's normal?
I didn't know it was normal, but those numbers are right. Yes.
Yeah, that's normal. And so, how do you feel, Greg, about hiring Matt as the guy who's going to negotiate on your behalf, considering that you just out negotiated him?
Fuck, I feel like shit now.
I mean, do you really want to hire? Do you really want to hire a negotiator that you just out negotiated? Does that make any sense at all?
Joel, that makes zero sense. My wife would kill me if I did that. She was proud of me,
Yeah,
but then
so
ultimately the way that you're looking at it is she'd kill me.
yeah. So I'll tell you what. If you want to sign up with me right now, we'll get your house on the market today, or we'll wait until, Monday, give you time to get it straightened up. And I won't tell your wife that you were going to hire Matt.
So you're blackmailing me now?
I promise not to tell her.
Okay, I like that. All right,
that was great. That was the best bit of verbal aikido I've seen in a long time. That was great.
That was awesome.
So what I'd like to add to that is that's not really a script. It's just a perspective. And so I really want that to be, I want that to happen organically by asking questions. And I mean, he could have said, Greg could have said, no, he's the 4% guy. He always does 4%. It's on his billboards, right? If something else would have happened. I don't know. I'm just listening to what Greg had to say, and I'm exploring what happened and how did it work. And I'm really listening because I have no idea where this conversation's going to go.
The interesting part about that, Joel, is that when we were role playing, at no point did I feel like I was being scripted or you were using canned lines, and I legitimately felt stupid for bragging about getting him down to 4%. And then wanting to hire him at 4%, when you related back and forth, I'm like, do you really want to hire the guy that you just out negotiated? I'm like, God, I literally felt the twinge. I'm like, that's the worst idea I could ever come up with. So I got to hand it to you, man. That was phenomenal.
Awesome, thanks.
And I am signing up for your course. I want to be a verbal ninja too.
Nice. Nice.
All right, Joel. So remind people of where they can go to do that. First of all.
Yeah, so the course is the workshop is it's a participatory workshop. So it's not just me blabbing
people
on for an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, they don't have to, but I highly encourage them to participate. The more they participate, the more they get. So the course is called The Truth About Sales. It's 1 hour a week for 12 roughly consecutive weeks. You can find more information at joelrico.com. That's JOELRICO, joelrico.com. And not everybody in there is real estate, but probably 95% of my fans, my following, is mostly real estate agents.
Sure. Well, I will be signing up for that class. I thought that was phenomenal information.
Cool.
Quick shout out to Talon Prospecting, guys. Phil, my homeboy over at Talon. If you guys want any information about my ISA team that does calls for me, check out these numbers again. This guy kills me, dude. He did 600. There were 600 total calls. He talked to 46 people, and he set 7 appointments for me. Holy shitballs. So yeah, that's my boy Phil. If you guys want some information on that. Also, the McDaniel Challenge is paused because we are into 2018. So what I am doing, guys, we are taking on 2 to 3 self-starting qualified real estate agents onto our team. So if you guys are looking to get onto a team, interview with us. But if you are not a self-starter and not willing to hustle and grind, need not apply. I only want A-level players. And I won't take anything less. So if you guys want to join or have any questions about it, please let me know. But know that we love you. I mean, holy shit, this was an awesome show, Matt. I got to tell you, man, this is probably one of my favorites so far.
Wow, thanks, man.
Extremely good. Yeah, Arne, who's watching live, said in response to somebody else, he said, Deb, I haven't listened to a single one of their podcasts that hasn't taught me at least 5 valuable lessons. And that's, which we appreciate, but this has been even better. I mean, even I was over here like taking notes frantically, for myself.
Awesome.
But, it's really good. But anyway, everybody go check out joelrico.com, joelrico.com. Make sure to check out our website as well, McDanielRealEstateSystems.com, where you can find Greg's favorite scripts. That's a free download. and our video training course on high-tech, high-touch real estate farming and all that good stuff. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and iTunes and Stitcher and all that good stuff as far as keeping up with the show. Anybody else? Arne, yes, I did. I heard Greg correctly pronounce your name, so I did learn to pronounce your name correctly, which I'm usually much better at. I have usually a pretty good knack for name pronunciation, and I screwed that one up pretty good. Anyway, Greg, anybody else you want to shout out in the last? We got we're pretty much at go time, so.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have a great making out challenge today, guys. With Ann, I talked with her in July. She's a debt collector, so I can't wait to catch up with her. And then I have Dawn and Dustin and Gina for the rest of the week. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'll keep you guys up to date on those. And Arne, when you first popped in, you heard me saying sexual partner. I was talking about the 4 different ways your mind will immediately lock onto another human and put a label to them. But I will talk with you offline about it, since we are way past bingo and we want to make sure we can put this thing into a can nice and Betty Bye time.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks again so much. Joel, thank you so much. Everybody, we'll see you on the next episode on Wednesday at 3.
See you
Thanks
guys.
for having me, guys. See you soon.